All right, guys. So, welcome to morning yoga with LJ Hash from my home studio here in Oak Cliff. The most important things I can tell you about practice this morning is that you only do what suits you best. If I'm suggesting something and it doesn't feel appropriate at the moment, it's not the right thing for you at the moment, right? And so don't force things, let things happen. The practice will have a little bit of movement kind of after about the first 10 minutes or so. We'll work on breath first and then we'll get into some movement. After we get moving for a little bit, get some blood flowing, the latter part of class is going to be a little bit more holding poses and deep stretch, and of course a juicy savasana at the end. So if you're okay with this, we'll start in a child's pose position. If you prefer to be in a different shape, choose the different shape, right? Sometimes child's pose can be an irritant for whatever reason. So you always have the option to modify your practice. Even within child's pose, there's variations. You can have the knees very close together and the body kind of rests on the thighs. Some mornings that's the perfect way to do it. Other days it's the knees far apart and the torso kind of sinks down in between the knees. So just allow yourself to settle into that place. And now set your intention that this next roughly hour is going to be all about right there where you're at the moment. Letting go of connection and attachment to things that are happening someplace else, some other time, some other people, some other situation. Just become engrossed with what's going on right there, right now. And so we can take a few steps that actually, two parts will help draw you in focus-wise to where you're at, but also will allow you to recognize and see what's going on in your situation right now. So having a look at the physical body, right, just observing the conditions that are present. There may be some aches and pains or tenderness or stiffness, but also kind of the mood of the body at the moment. Are you kind of lethargic and kind of tired body-wise? Or is the body a little bit more scattered and energetic and raring to go? Just recognize these are the conditions. Then look at your breath. Similar technique, just observing the qualities of the breath. Is it a fast breath? Is it a slow breath? Is it steady, or does it have some places where it's faster or slower or stops completely? Is it balanced between the inhale and exhale? Or does one seem easier or more efficient or last longer? And then bring some awareness to the mind. And like we did with the body and the breath, just observe the conditions, trying to set aside whatever it is that you're thinking about, not latching on to the thought, but just observing. Are the thoughts racing through the mind? Or are you kind of focused on one thing? Or is the mind not focused at all? Is it kind of cloudy and you're not even really sure what's going on in the mind at the moment? It's just accepting that these are the initial conditions. As we go through our practice, we'll make effects on all three of those levels. So begin the first active technique now. Pranayama practice, breath practice, right? Your ujjayi breathing, right? This is the breath that comes in through both nostrils, big, completely filling breath. I suggest breathe in, let the abdomen expand, then the ribs expand, then the upper chest expand and open. On the exhale, let it be the other way around. Upper chest compresses in, ribs compress in, finally navel center squeezes in. So slow, deep breaths. Slow is the operative word here. And again, even this kind of thing, if it's not working for you, then breathe it whatever way you want. We don't want anything to be distressful. You might develop a little bit of a sound in the back of the throat, the breath, perhaps with the sound of like waves rolling up onto the beach and rolling back out, or a gentle breeze, right? Or perhaps you just feel the friction, the light brush of the breath as it moves into the body and out of the body. So start to bring some balance now to the breath so that the inhale, exhale, same length of time. Perhaps 4 seconds by 4 seconds. Slow and steady. Deep breaths. Four seconds by 4 seconds. And so now we'll start to come into our first movements. So let the hands extend out long in front of you. Press into the fingertips. Keep the breath moving smooth and fluid. On your next inhale, pull into an all fours. On the exhale, hips go back towards the heels. Inhale, pulling forward. Exhale, hips pushing backwards. You may have some unique little movements in here. You might be moving the spine up and down like cow and cat, or you may be pushing hips to the sides, or whatever may be going on. But bring balance and smoothness to the movement and the breath. 4 seconds by 4 seconds is what I generally recommend. You might be going slower if you're going quicker than that. If you're 2s or 3s, see if you can slow it down, but without distressing things. So now we'll add a third piece on here, right? So on the next inhale forward, the exhale is going to lead you hips towards the floor, heart opens up, chin might lift a little bit. Make sure your shoulders are over your wrists and not out here like I'm showing this way, shoulders in front of wrists. We don't want that action. Next inhale, come back into the center. Exhale, hips to heels. 3 more times, smooth and fluid. And yeah, we're doing super simple movements at first, so that we can find this perfect symmetry, right? Looking for the places in here where the body's trying to go a little faster or slower, and smooth those things out. Same thing with the breath. Don't think of it as 3 different places, right? So no stopping, but instead think of these 3 different poses as one continuous fluid moving thing. That's the goal here, is to keep the movement happening until we're ready to come to a pause. So the next time you do come into that forward place, pause there in the forward place. You can stay here with the arms long and the shoulders over the wrist. If this doesn't feel right for the arms, you can let the body come all the way down to the floor and let the hands come back next to the hips. Squeeze the elbows in towards the torso and then let the elbows bend back just a little bit. Notice the chin is level with the floor for a moment and then perhaps a slight lift. So not a giant severe thing, but just a slight lift. Pull the front of the shoulders back, open the heart, and then let yourself roll all the way down to the floor. Turn the face to one side, and let the hands come back next to the hips. Just feel the rise and fall. Breath smooth and fluid. In for 4, out for 4. Let the face slowly turn to the other side. Right, and so this pose, we're practicing letting go. Literally not trying to force the twist in the upper spine, right in the neck, but instead just softening the shoulders, softening the face, jaw, neck. But the breath is in that smooth and fluid pace. And as you're ready, bring the chin back into the center. Bring the thumbs about at the level of the heart. Let the thumbs slide underneath the torso. Squeeze the elbows in. Let the tops of the feet be flat here for a moment. Soften the buttocks, soften the lower back. And then allow the chin and chest to start to rise up off the floor. Use arm strength here, not lower back strength. Press into the hands, squeeze the arms in, and let's slowly let the arms start to straighten out. Lift the chin, open the heart. Inhale here. Exhale, round like the spine like a cat. Turn the 10 toes underneath, hips to heels. Big stretch through the toes. Allow the hands to now either go straight out forward, or you can isolate one side at a time. Maybe walking the hands off of your mat over to the left side. Crawling the right fingertips further out. Push the hips back towards the heels. Feel that stretch down the right side. Breath is still smooth and fluid. In through both nostrils. Big full breath. Out through both nostrils, completely emptying, 4 by 4. Then you have the opportunity to stay and stretch this side longer when you're ready, and that truly means when you're ready. It's your practice, right? Come through the center and bring the hands over to the other side, getting the similar stretch on this other side. Hips pushing back to your heels, crawling through the fingertips. Breath again, smooth and fluid. You might be able to hear your breath pretty well and even feel your breath right there coming off the mat as the breath comes out of the nostrils and swirls around the face. Come back into the center. Pull into an all fours. Those 10 toes turned underneath. Line the shoulders up over the wrist. Press into all parts of the hands, right? You want the fingertips spread wide and pressing down through all parts of the hand. Elbows with a slight little rotation in towards the center line so you feel the upper arm and shoulders start to become engaged. Don't pick the knees up just yet, but almost pick the knees up. Notice which muscles start to engage. To do that, push the heart towards the floor. Pick the knees just an inch or so up off the floor. Feel that little bit of extra power. Remember, this is optional stuff. You may be child's posing here instead of downward facing dog, and that's the next place. Potentially hips into the sky, downward facing dog. Inhale, rise up on the tips of the toes. On the exhale, press the heels down towards the floor. Inhale, rise up on toes. Exhale, heels press towards the floor. Rise up on toes. Heels press towards the floor. Now bend that left knee. Press the right heel more towards the mat. Bring the hands a little closer to the back of the mat and let your hips lift higher into the sky. So bigger stretch down the back of that right leg. So not really a true downward facing dog, but more just an isolated stretch for that right leg. Your hips may stay right there in the center, or you might angle over to the left side or over to the right side. You want to be super careful here, not forcing anything. When you've had enough stretch on this side, just change it out. Bending the right knee and press the left heel more towards the floor. You really don't ever want to have anything feel like it's locked out. So like if the left knee feels locked out, that's not what we're looking for. But lift that left hip up towards the sky. Get that stretch. And the stretch can show up again in several places. Maybe it's hamstring, maybe it's in the hip, maybe it's in the lower back or calf or back of the knee. Then let both legs come to relatively straight. Inhale, rise up on the toes, bend the knees, look forward. You could hop the feet forward, take a big step and another step, or walk the feet to the front. Bring the hands up onto the thighs. Bring the torso higher than halfway. And so here we're going to try to lengthen the spine. So, if you ever work at a desk, or maybe you've been watching a lot of TV this last week or so, you might have this kind of hunched over and slumped shape. And so we want to take that out in a bunch of places in our practice here. And so take your shoulder blades and pull them back up towards the sky so your heart pushes forward. Take the tops of the shoulders and pull them away from the ears so the neck gets longer. Shoulder blades towards the sky, heart pressing towards the floor. Let your belly button squeeze in towards the spine. All this little structural engagement stuff, we want to do at less than 10% intensity. So it's not super rigid, but there's definitely something going on. So belly button in, and then pulling the solar plexus, the abdominal cavity, towards the crown of the head. Hands there are on the knees. Knees have some bend. Heart pushing forward, shoulders pulling back, neck getting longer. Last little bit here in the lowest part of the torso there. In the hips, squeeze the hips in towards the center line and draw the pelvic floor towards the crown of the head. Keep that length in the body. Inhale here. On the exhale, fold it down. Legs can have some bend in them, or the legs can be straighter. Then do soften the knees. Bend the knees. Take the hands, reach forward. Bring the arms up higher than the ears. And then keep the knees bent and rise into chair pose here. On the inhale, reach a little higher, sit a little deeper. On the exhale, reach a little higher, sit a little deeper. Next inhale, straighten the legs, look up towards the sky. Exhale, back bend. We're going to start to come into a little bit more movement here. Inhale, take it up to the top. On the exhale, arms out to the side. Heart forward, swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, lift up a little bit. Plant the hands and step it back, downward facing dog. Inhale to all fours. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, hips drop down and forward. Inhale into the center. Exhale, hips up into the sky. Inhale, rise up on the tips of the toes. Exhale, feet to the front of the mat. Inhale, higher than halfway, hands on thighs potentially. Exhale, fold a bit deeper. Bend the knees, take the arms forward, keep the knees bent as you inhale, rise into chair. Exhale, sit a little deeper. Inhale, straighten legs, look up. Exhale, back bend. Arms can stay up over the head or drop out or even down. Inhale, bring it back up to the top. On the exhale, sit into chair. Inhale, lengthen through the fingertips. On the exhale, keep the arms by the ears, but bring the belly to the thighs, so hands reaching forward. Inhale, hips back, fingers forward. Exhale, fingers to the floor, hips to the sky. Could be fingers on shins. Inhale, lift a little bit. Plant the hands, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, all fours. Smooth and fluid movements here, y'all. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, back forward. Exhale, hips drop downwards. Inhale, center. We're going to change it from this downward facing dog. So remember here in this downward facing dog, sometimes the modified pose is instead of down dog, you can do this stuff from all fours. So at first here, take the left leg into the sky behind you. Left toes pointed down, top of the left foot flexing towards the shin. So not letting the toes turn and hip open, but keeping the toes pointed down. Press through the left heel. Remember, we can do this from the right knee if you need to be there. You can also have the left toes on the floor. We can do it this way. If you're okay with the foot up off the floor, lift the heel a little bit higher. Press into the hands, squeeze the elbows in. Neck is long. You're looking pretty much down at the mat or slightly backwards. And now keep that downward facing dog shape, but bring the left thigh in towards the left side belly. Squeeze it in, flex in that left foot, and then pull the shoulders over the wrist. Now one time, we're going to take that foot into the sky. Inhale all the way up into the sky. On this exhale, land the left foot up here behind the left wrist. Turn the right foot out at maybe a 45-degree angle. Hands on hips as we come towards warrior one. Now, always these cues, super important, and I'll give it to you this time, but it applies each time we come into these kind of shapes. Left toes straight ahead, so the foot's not angled off to the side. Left knee behind the heel, so it's not out in this shape. That's bad news. You'll feel too much tension and maybe cause an injury. And then the left shin in the same plane with the middle three toes, so not buckling over to the inside or to the outside. All four corners of that left foot pressing into the floor. From there, let the hips square to the front of the mat and level off. You may have to move that back foot around, but keep these relative angles here in the front foot. From there, turn the engagement on the legs on. So the feet press apart, legs squeeze towards each other, front to back, legs squeeze towards each other, side to side. Find that structure in the torso. Hips with a little squeeze in and lift up, navel center in, lift up, crown of the head over the tailbone. So not leaning out forward here, but this place instead. Drop the fingertips down, stretch the fingers apart from each other, take the fingertips away from the shoulders, and then it's this slow journey. And the slowness in this place is so that you can feel all those little things that might happen in the shoulders. Don't have to take the arms over the head. If this is too taxing for you this morning or just doesn't feel right, hands can be on hips or on the lower back. And sometimes that's a better option because it'll let you know if your hips have kind of twisted out of shape. Your hands will give you that signal and you can keep that squareness. From here, on the inhale, lift the chin, look up towards the sky, a little arch back. On the exhale, chin comes into 90 degree and lean out forward. Only as far as in same plane with that back leg, so not too far forward. On the inhale, take it up to the top, face looks up, arch it back. On the exhale, lean it out. So go with that sequence a few times here. If your arms are up here behind, up by the head, you're going to keep the arms behind the ears, so don't let them drift down where you can see them, right? If that's the way it has to be, then I suggest hands on the hips is a better spot. And the reason why, so that we can keep that heart open, right, as opposed to rounded back on the sofa. All right. So the next time you get into that little back bend place, pause here. Let the front leg start to straighten out. Now you can do this with the arms up over the head. I'm going to suggest for most of us to turn the palms to face forward, bend the elbows, open the heart a little bit more, and then let the hands come down, either thumb and index finger on the waist, or you might bring hands behind the back and just place them. If you're looking for a little bit more intensity of this morning's practice, you might grab peace fingers or interlace the fingers behind the back. Front leg straight but not locked out. And then slowly here, lean just a little bit forward. Press the feet apart, squeeze the legs together, front to back, side to side. Remember, not locked down in the front knee, so there's a little bend. And then let the body fold a little bit deeper. Maybe as much as halfway to the floor here. We're going to get into that deeper forward fold in a moment, but for just a bit, try to kind of challenge yourself in this shape. Feet pressing, legs squeezing, torso lengthening. Breath is smoothing out. Right, shoulder blades pulling back towards the sky, neck is long. Then let yourself fold a little deeper. Release the hands. They can slide down onto the thigh, the shin. Some of us, they'll come down to the floor. So we've got our right foot turned out flat. Totally okay here to roll onto the ball of the right foot, lifting the right heel up off the floor. You can press that right heel backwards, left hip backwards. Flatten the spine, those same little things we did earlier in practice, then bend the elbows and let the body fold deeper. And by the way, you could do this modified and be on the right knee, half splits. Stick with it for just a few moments. And then from here, we are going to bend that back knee. Front knee will bend some too to help you get down. Drop that right knee to the floor. Let the left leg straighten out. Lift the torso a little higher. Fold a little deeper. So it's a big stretch down the back of that left leg. You might find it other places. Then slowly start to re-bend this front knee. Top of the right foot's going to turn flat. If this feels uncomfortable on your right knee on the floor here, we're going to be in this shape for a few moments. You might double up your mats, or you might put a blanket or a towel or even a pillow sometimes underneath that right knee, right shin. From here, we're going to try to find a stretch on the front of the right hip so the hips push down and forward. Let the chin lift just a little bit here, push into the top of that right foot. Now, in a bit, I'm going to let us, or cue us to perhaps take the body towards the floor. So if your left knee is right in here against the body, you might kind of walk the left foot out a little bit so that there's going to be a space for your body to lean out forward. I'm on fingertips here so the spine can be as long as I can make it. Push into the top of that back foot. Bend the elbows. And maybe just sink a little bit deeper. Potentially coming down onto forearms. Or you may be on hands here, right? And it doesn't mean it's better just because it looks deeper, right? It's what's working for you. You have the option to stay in that shape or bring the hands back in, torso upright. Hands coming onto that left knee, left thigh. Carefully bring the torso upright. Again, super careful with what's going on that right leg. Totally okay if like this sequence is just terrible for your knee. Maybe you need to come onto your backside or into seated or child's pose and just breathe for a few moments. It's totally your practice, right? And the breath is the key thing here. So we're dropping that hips down and forward. Use our hands to get the torso a little taller. You can keep both hands on that left thigh, or maybe just the right hand drops. If you're okay with that, both hands can drop. So it's, we can do this in kind of sorta. We want to do it with some effort and aliveness. Not intensity, but some effort. Stretch the fingertips apart. Push the hips down and forward. Even here, the legs have engagement, so you're squeezing them towards each other. Torso lengthening. Then let the arms again find this journey. Out, up over the head. If it's all right, interlace the fingers. Point the index fingers up towards the sky. The chin can lift and find some arching back here. So coming into this crescent moon kind of shape. Think about the fingertips up here as one tip of this crescent moon. The toes back there, the other tip. And just find that arch. Breath still moving. Then release the hands. Let them drop down and open. So last little bit here. Potentially arms coming up over the head or onto the thigh or to the lower back. If the arms came up over the head, take them behind the ears. And then not all the way to the floor, but just a little bit of a lean out here. We're trying to use the weight of the arms out here to pull all the way down to the right toes. Then let the hands release down to the floor super carefully here, y'all. Let that left leg come back. From here, we're going to make our way onto our back sides for a few moments. Just take your time. So allow the knees to come in towards the chest. And then hands inside the knees and just softly let the knees open up to the side. So two varieties of pose we can do here. This first one called frog, or sometimes called frog, where the knees stay bent and the heels have a tiny little squeeze towards the glutes, thighs. Now, so not rigid, but a little bit of something. The other variation here, happy baby, where the soles of the feet go like you're standing on the ceiling. Your hands could be in the thighs or inside the calves, inner edge of the feet, or sometimes peace fingers will grab the inside of the big toes. All right, so you find whichever variation works for you, and then you're going to work the knees a little bit further out potentially, a little bit closer towards the floor potentially. You can stay static, kind of non-moving, or you may have a little bit of rocking side to side or front to back. You may change the angle of where the knees are going, so they might go like more towards the feet or more towards the head, or more straight out to the side. Breath still smooth and fluid. Then release, bring the legs back into the center. Soles of the feet come down to the floor. First belly up, back bend of the practice. Palms facing down. Feet hips width apart. Once again, press into the feet, almost like you're going to lift the hips up, but don't. Feel which muscles are engaged. If the buttocks have kind of clenched up, see if you can ask them to soften. More thigh strength here. Then let the hips lift up into the sky. Big arch through the spine, rolling onto the tops of the shoulders, pressing into all four corners of both feet. The legs have a slight squeeze in towards each other. Just find that arch. And then slowly roll everything all the way down to the floor. Let the knees drift over to the left side. Face turns with the legs to that left side. Just a moment or two here. Then bring the legs through the center. Drift them over to the other side. And back into the middle. And make our way back into an all fours. From our all fours, turn the 10 toes underneath and allow the hips to lift up into the sky, downward facing dog. So similar stuff here now for the right side. Bend the right knee, press the left heel more towards the floor. Remember, we can modify and do this from the left knee if we need to, from an all fours shape. Right leg goes into the sky. Press through the heel. Flex through the top of the foot. Toes pointed down. Heel lifts a little higher potentially. Stay in your down dog shape with that flex in the foot. Now bend that right knee. Bring the right thigh in towards the torso. And then pull the shoulders over the wrists. We did it slow this one time. Now we'll move with the breath. On the inhale, right leg into the sky. On the exhale with control, right foot lands. Left foot turns flat. Working our way back to hands on hips, warrior one. Right toes straight ahead. Knee behind the heel. Shin in the plane with the middle three toes, right foot. Hips leveled off, squared up. Left foot turned out at an angle. That angle kind of depends on you. We don't want the toes to go straight out to the side, and we don't want them all the way forward, right? Those are different poses, different actions. So we want someplace in between there. Really, the more important part is the front toes, knee, and then the leveling of the hips. Press the feet apart. Squeeze the legs together. Then quit pressing the feet apart. Quit squeezing the legs. And just notice how there's a difference, right? We don't want this, rigid, but we want structure. Press the feet. Squeeze the legs front to back, side to side. Outer edges of the hips squeeze in, lift up. Belly squeezes in, lift up. Shoulders pull back, heart pushes forward. Tops of shoulders drop down. Stretch the fingers apart. And slowly find the hands coming up over the head. Arms behind the ears. If we're doing it this way, if that won't work for you for whatever reason, hands on hips, hands on lower back, hands on front of the thigh, whatever. Inhale, lift the chin, a little bit of an arch back. On the exhale, chin comes into 90 degree and the body leans out, maybe in the same plane with that back leg. No deeper than that. On the inhale, take it up to the top. On the exhale, lean it out. Inhale, take it up, arch it back. Exhale, lean out forward. Inhale. Exhale. Next time you get up to the top, pause there at the top. Straighten the front leg. Turn the palms to face forward. For most of us, you can keep the arms up here if you want. Or you'll bend the elbows. Let the hands come around to hips, small of the back. Again, hands can rest there, or you'll find an interlace or peace finger grabbing. If you're doing that, change which index finger's in front, or change which set of peace fingers you're grabbing. Front leg not locked out, but relatively straight. Press the feet, squeeze the legs, torso gets longer. Then just a little bit of a lean out. So we're making it a little bit more challenging in this place. Right, feet pressing, legs squeezing, torso lengthening. Then let the body go just a little bit deeper. So not quite the halfway. And that halfway is as far as we're ever going to, well, not as far as we're ever going to get, but it's going to be our most intense place in this little sequence. So then perhaps let yourself come to that place, no deeper than halfway, but definitely challenging. You may feel like the body's kind of leaning over to the right side, so push the hips over to the left side. Lengthen here. Might even feel a little bit of heat building. Feet pressing, legs squeezing, breath moving, smooth and fluid, torso engaged, shoulders pull back, neck is long. And trust me, guys, as you're probably finding out, it's hard to do all those things at the same time. So there's kind of almost like this continuous checklist going on. Let the hands now release, slide down that front leg. Maybe fingertips to the floor. Again, that back foot is turned out flat. For a lot of us, maybe coming onto the ball of the left foot is a better option. Press the left heel backwards, right hip backwards. Fingertip tall with the body, and then start to fold a little deeper here. Again, there's a structure going on, so the hips aren't just kind of sort of someplace. They're in a precise place, right? Feet pressing, legs squeezing, hips level, body long. Then super carefully from here, we're going to make our way down towards the floor. So both knees can bend here, and you're going to let that left knee come down to the floor. Top of the left foot can turn flat potentially, and then come into half splits. All right, so fingertips here. You could use blocks if you had that, or even pillows or something like that to allow yourself to get a little taller so we can take out some of that roundness. Even hands on the thigh here. Then let the body sink deeper. Right, so those same engagements going on. Even here, the feet are pressing. So like if your left or right toes are down, you're pressing down. If they've picked up a little bit, they're pointing forward. If they've flexed back, then they're flexing back and the right heel is pressing. Hips sink down. Body folds out forward. Breath smooth and fluid. Carefully now from here, rebend this front knee. Walk the hands forward, hips sink down and forward. Remember, we want to make some space for the body here, so the right foot goes out to the side, right thigh out to the side. Long torso, pushing to the top of the back foot. Elbows bend, body starts to sink. You don't have to go all the way to the floor. Maybe you go just a little tiny bit forward. Maybe you go all the way down to the floor. Then as you're ready, slowly start to come back up. Hands onto the right thigh. Potentially, right? It's your practice. So you may be like in a pose I mentioned 5 minutes ago and you're still doing it. Totally okay. It's your practice. Remember, we can always double up the mat or put a blanket or towel underneath that left knee. Hips sink down and forward. Maybe use the hands to help the torso get a little bit longer. Feel more sensation on the front of this left hip. Push into the left pinky toe, left big toe, left leg longer. From here, one or both hands can drop. Sometimes that's too much and you're like, you know what? Hands back on the thigh. Sometimes you're like, okay, this is perfect. Other times, stretching through the arms. Maybe it's T shape or Y shape. Or hands up over the head free. If you're going to interlace, change which index finger's in front. Point the index fingers up, get longer, maybe chin lifts, and then let that arching sensation start to show up. Stick with it for a few moments. Stay here. Reaching through the fingertips if you took that option. If the hands are on the hips, you're reaching through the crown of the head, finding the arch there. Chin lifting, heart pushing forward. Top of the back foot pressing into the floor. Left leg getting longer. Release the arms, let them drop down and out and open. Then bring the torso back upright. You have the option to do this with hands on hips or hands up over the head again. And start to lean out just a little bit, reaching through the fingertips, pushing to the top of that back foot. And then finally release the hands down to the floor. Carefully let that right leg go back. And then again, we're going to find ourselves on our back side. So just taking a few moments to let things soften. Turn off the muscular engagement. Sometimes the hands will still be kind of clenched up a little bit, or the feet or legs are kind of clenched up, or the jaw is kind of tight. Just soften. So we're about to come into a little bit of a twist series here. It's your spine, your hips, your body. So you want to be very careful. Pay attention to what's going on. Only do what feels right for you. I'll give lots of steps. The reason I'm giving all the steps is so that you can find just the thing that works for you. You don't have to do all the way to step, 4 or 5 or whatever the number is, right? Do the things that work for you. So maybe your step that you stay with is right here on your backside, and just breathe and rest for a bit. If you're wanting this twist, let the left leg extend out long along the floor, flexing through the left foot slightly so it's not rigid, but it's not, just hanging out. There's a structure. Take your hands and help draw the right knee in towards the chest, using both hands around that right shin. Your tailbone might even lift up just a little bit for a moment, then roll it back down to the floor. Your left hand here hangs onto the front of the right shin. Both feet have a little bit of a flex as opposed to just kind of hanging out, right? So the flex. Right arm extends out to the right side. Use your left hand now and start to guide this right leg across the body. Turn your face with the leg. Let your right shoulder press towards the floor. Both feet have some flex. So there's several possibilities here. I've cued you to do this with the right knee bent. You can actually keep it that way. You might even kind of squeeze the right heel back towards the glute just a little bit. Or you may carefully start to unbend that right knee a little bit, or it maybe even goes all the way straight. Now, some of us, depending on length of arms and flexibility and all that kind of stuff, you might take the left hand and grab like the outer edge of the right foot. That's a possibility, but it's not a requirement. For a lot of us, just hand on the right thigh is going to be fine. Now, your right arm extending out, you're reaching through the right fingertips. Breath is still smooth and fluid. You have structure, both legs, both feet, even that thing in the spine from the tail to the crown. Now, the right arm, it can keep reaching straight out, or sometimes we'll let it start to drift a little bit more towards behind the head. It could be anywhere along that plane, from straight out to straight back. I'll also find sometimes a little bend in that right elbow, and you can just push the right elbow away from the root there on the right side, lower back, and you'll feel that thing start to express itself. Now, you can keep the face looking over here to the left side, same way you're twisting. If you feel like you need a little bit more intensity and you're super careful, you might turn the face and look up towards the sky, or even potentially looking back over that right shoulder. Don't force it. So now that you've found the spot, or maybe you've been there for a few moments, stick with this space. Try to eliminate any kind of fidgeting, right? And just be in this pose. Feel the rise and fall, the in and out of your breath. Feel the place or places where the resistance is speaking to you, where it's showing up. And on those exhales, keep the shape, but just let that tension leave. Breathing in through the nose, deep, full breaths. Back out through the nose, completely emptying. And so some of us are going to prefer to stick with this side a little bit longer, especially if you're like just on the edge of something happening. You're like, oh, it's just about to finally, let go. Then stay with it for as many breaths as you need. Again, it's your practice. When you're ready to unravel, go slow. Don't just jump out, but, see if you can recognize some things happening or some sensations as you carefully come back into neutral. You might take the soles of both feet to the floor, knees up towards the sky, and hands down next to the hips, and just this gentle kind of neutralizing. So not really a big twist here, but just the knees going side to side. If that doesn't feel like it's helping out, maybe you shake out a leg or whatever. But the idea is that we release kind of the intensity of the last stretchy pose right? So we'll come back to more kind of a neutral shape and then start to initiate the procedures for the second side. So now the right leg extends out long. Again, a subtle flex, not rigid. You don't want to feel the knee hyperextended, but you don't want the foot to just be flopping, right? There's a shape down there. And then draw the left knee in, using the hands around that shin. Tailbone might lift up just a little bit, then roll it back down. Both feet have the flex. Right hand hangs onto left shin. Left arm extends out to the left side. That's our anchor and counterbalance. Remember, you want that structure in the legs, so not, feet just kind of hanging out, but a tiny little flex. And then use that right hand and help draw the left leg a little bit across, maybe a little bit more across, maybe deeply across. Face looking with the legs to this right side. Reaching through the left fingertips, grounding the left shoulder. Remember, you have options here with this left leg. It can stay bent and just kind of with a little bit of intensity, or you may add a little bit more of a kind of a squeeze of the heel back towards the glute, or the knee may unbend a little bit, or it'll straighten all the way out, or even right hand hangs onto that left foot. You have your options with that left arm, can go straight out, or a little bit back, or even elbow bend. And your face, same thing, has the possibility looking to the right, up to the sky, or over to the left side. Breath still moving, smooth and fluid. And then as you're ready, slowly start to unwind. And again, maybe you're not ready, so if you need a few more moments, it's your practice. Do what suits you best. Allowing the soles of the feet to come to the floor again. Again, that kind of neutralizing action, whatever that means, maybe knee side to side, or maybe shake out a leg, or shoulder, or neck, or whatever it needs to be. Now from here, draw that right knee in again. Hands around the shin, squeeze it in. Right heel is going to go onto the left thigh, making a figure 4 with the right knee. Now you could do a seated pigeon here if that's how you prefer to do things, you certainly can. I'm going to cue it in this reclined shape. So picking up the left foot, using both hands and that left leg, start to draw the right calf a little bit more towards that belly button or towards the heart. You do want that little flex in both feet. Your tailbone might lift up just a little bit here at first, but then roll the tailbone back down to the floor. You're looking to find a fairly intense stretch in the right side thigh or buttock or hip or lower back. It may show up other places, but that's kind of the primary thing. You want to be cautious if there's some stuff going on in that right knee, or if it feels like the hip socket's being impinged or otherwise, not good, then this isn't the right pose. You can come into resting pose, Shavasana, which is where we're about to be anyway. So let that right arm extend out to the right side, similar to what we just did. We'll find another twist here, but keeping that intensity in the right side buttock, and let the legs now drift a little bit to the left side. Your face can turn with the legs. By the way, you don't have to do the twisty component here. You may have another variety of your reclined pigeon that you like to do, cradling the leg or extending the left leg up or out. So similar options here with the face, similar options with the right arm. Again, try to limit the fidgetiness, if you will. And that doesn't mean like you stay in a place and you're hurting, or you need to make an adjustment, maybe you rolled over onto a pebble, right? Make those changes, right? It's not a forceful thing here. We're literally exploring what's actually going on and using these scientific techniques, these yogic techniques, to elicit some very specific changes, right? The smoothness of our breath has brought smoothness to the mind, to the energy of the body. The intensity of the pose here, pulling out old, stale, stuck energy, things you don't need anymore. So if it was me practicing on my own, I would spend quite a bit more time working this side. You may be the same way, and so if you need those extra moments working this side, stay with it. When you're ready to unravel again, go slow, be mindful, try not to rush. Allow some neutralizing again, maybe knee side to side, or shake out the leg, or roll the ankle around, wiggle the toes. And then find that second side coming into play. Left knee comes in, left heel comes onto the right thigh. Both feet have a little flex. Use the right hand and the right leg to draw in. Now you can use that left hand. Sometimes it pushes the left knee away a little bit. Your hips can pivot to the left or a little bit, right? There's, intensifiers that you can find right here. You don't want to be kind of crunched up. You want the back of the head on the floor, unless you're doing a cradling option. Something like that may be different. Again, find something here already, some sensation there in that left hip. Let the left arm potentially extend out to the left side. Keep that sensation. So we're trying not to go fast so that we can keep that sensation going on, but also recognize how that sensation changes as the legs start to drift across the body to the right side. Face turning with the legs, at least at first. Then you may have the option of face up to the sky or over that left shoulder. Left arm reaching out, left shoulder pressing down. You might change the angle of that left arm or even bend the left elbow. Yeah, those little places. Stick with it. Keep breathing. And then again, you have more time if you need it on this side. When you're ready to unravel, slowly. Last back bend here. Soles of the feet on the floor. Press into the feet. Allow the hips to rise up. You do want to find the bend here in this shape, so you might walk the shoulders a little closer to the feet and maybe kind of roll the shoulders underneath the body. Press into all four corners of both feet. Lift the thighs, lift the hips, lift the belly, lift the heart. Feel that arch in the spine. And then slowly roll the spine down to the floor. Last pose before Shavasana. Simple inversions here. Apanasana, a great one, drawing the knees in towards the chest. Again, you might kind of pick up the lower back and maybe wiggle the hips away, lengthen the spine. So we can stick just like this. If you want to do a plow pose or a three-quarter shoulder stand inversion, and you're super safe with those are appropriate here as well. I generally like either Apanasana, where I just was showing, or a waterfall where the legs extend up into the sky, and not where the legs are like a leg lift out here where you feel the abs and lower back working, but more like knees kind of almost over the ribs, so the legs are dead weight. You can also do the same thing with the arms. They kind of just reach up. What you're looking to do here is feel that sensation of groundedness. You can literally feel the soft tissues and the fluids draining down. And then once you get that sensation of things draining down, just let the body come down and find this last shape. The shape for Shavasana. Tons of places you could be here, different variations. You can have soles of the feet on the floor, knees up toward the sky. You could do soles of the feet together, knees butterfly open. If you choose this option, Supta Baddha Konasana, you might want to put some pillows or blankets or blocks or bolsters underneath the thighs or knees so you're not feeling a stretch in the inner thighs, but you're able to actually release. Now, some of us, our legs are on, knees are already on the floor. That's fine too. The kind of more traditional shape is the legs go out long, about mat's width apart, and the feet just flop open to the sides. Perhaps you let the palms turn to face up towards the sky. Take these few moments to make any adjustments you need to do so that you're going to be able to be still in just a few moments. And then make a conscious effort to let go of all of the engagements. Let the muscles soften. From the toes all the way to the crown of the head, tips of the fingers, everything gets softer. Just release. Let go. Once you found that soft place, allow the body to be still. Restrain the mind from asking the body to move. Allow the breath now to just flow effortlessly. Remember, there's modifications. If this shape doesn't work for you, you can totally be on your right side. You can be in child's pose. You could be in seated. Just take these few moments of softness and stillness and reflect on how amazing you are. Literally stay right there on the mat and experience what's going on right there, right now where you're at. Appreciate you. And so you may choose to stay still longer. You may actually finish your practice here on your backside. If you're ready to come back into movement, let it happen very softly, fingers and toes. No sudden movements here. Feet and hands, wrists and ankles start to get a little bit of movement. You might gently take the arms and reach up towards the sky, maybe back behind the head. You could point the toe tips away from the shins and feel that stretch along the front side of the body. Then allow the right thigh to come in towards the torso. Once that happens, then the left thigh can come in towards the torso. So here we can roll onto a side here. If you're pregnant, you don't want to go to the right side, so it will be the left side for you. If you have an injury on the right side, you don't want to go to the right side. If it's okay, if you're not pregnant and don't have an injury, roll onto that right side. Let the body just rest there for a few moments. And then keep your eyes closed, but make your way into an easy cross-legged seated position to finish our practice. As we come into seated, again, eyes still closed, let the spine find that length from down there at the pelvic floor, through the navel center, heart pushing forward, shoulder blades and elbows pulling slightly backwards, tops of the shoulders drawing downwards, chin level with the floor, but the neck is long. All that stuff happening at less than 1% intensity. The chin might drift down towards the collarbone a little bit, or a little bit more. You could even let the body lean out and find a little stretch in the lower back. Guys, a shape for gratitude. Gratitude always first to yourself, because without you choosing to practice and actually doing the practice, it doesn't happen in your life. And so you want to be thankful to yourself, right? Gratitude to you. And then gratitude to everyone else who's practicing yoga, because we know that yoga, it has an effect on us, right? It refines us, makes us less freaked out, more, amazing versions of ourselves. But, what we are also rubs off on everyone else. And so everyone that's practicing yoga, mindfulness, meditation, all of these techniques to refine yourself, you're having an effect on everyone else. So thank you all for practicing. And then the final thing is this recognition that the essence of each of us, which cannot be changed, cannot be denied, is this divine light, right? The divine light in me sees, honors, loves, cherishes, respects the divine light in each of you. Namaste. Thanks very much, y'all. Have a great Tuesday. I'll be doing fairly regular stuff on Facebook Live, Instagram, and my YouTube channel, Oak Cliff Yoga, so you can find meditations and other things already posted up on that. If you're interested in doing online private lessons via Zoom or some other platform, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or at my email address, ljhash@hotmail.com. Again, thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you tomorrow.